You know a crazy little factoid I found out about this movie?
Sure, go ahead.
Millie Bobby Brown isn't legal yet.
Howdy, roundabout, all you shaggy goose egg boys. What a way to start an episode.
That's not staying in this episode, right?
Yep.
If it is, I apologize.
Dude, man, not even a minute in.
Sorry for that joke.
I already had to take my glasses off.
Well, welcome back.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm eating pizza.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we doing today, guys?
We're talking about a monster movie.
And if you could guess from that, then you know the movie to be Godzilla vs. Kong 2021.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell him.
Yeah, it's the new one.
I was going to leave it at that.
Oh, yeah, or the 1950 version.
Hold up, I haven't looked up the Wikipedia yet.
Well, while Chris is doing that, I actually want to correct myself, or maybe not correct myself, but articulate myself a little bit more on something that we talked about in the Looney Tunes podcast. Because when I listened back to it, I realized that I didn't really say things as adequately as I had hoped, right? Because I was tired, and I'm less tired today. So the part where I said about you should just shoot yourself, that was that was in relation to Jake talking about nihilism, right? And I was trying to be anti-nihilistic. And so basically, here's my point. And I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure that I was speaking correctly. Does a man who has been shot find no meaning in that pain? Does that pain not mean anything to them? Well, of course it does. Life is suffering, so the question is, what do you do about that? You can either complain about the so-called triviality of a life that doesn't automatically hold you as the supreme being that deserves care, or you can recognize that suffering is innate, and the only logical goal to be ascertained from that realization is to limit excess suffering. If you do that, then maybe you can call your life a success. If you seek only to critique, then your ability to offer a solution only becomes impossible. So that's what I wanted to say in that last episode, and again, I was too tired to say it. So now we can start.
All right. Well, I'm dressed up like King Kong.
Yeah, I realize I'm dressed as a dinosaur saying stuff like that. That's funny.
Yeah.
And,
I have a watermelon on my head.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't believe us, you can check out one of our Instagrams wherever those
or
pictures
something.
are going.
You'll see it.
We took pictures.
God, I know I'm gonna post it on Instagram, and I hope I don't.
Yeah, but I also have a tie on. So
yeah.
I'm kind of Donkey Kong.
And he also threw a barrel at me. So
also my ears are a little funky right now, so I can't really hear. So if I get really loud or really quiet, or you can't understand what I'm saying, because
I'll try to.
All
right, so Godzilla v Kong, buddies. How'd you
just wow?
Wow. Oh yeah, Claire's on the couch. She's trying to sleep, and we'll see how that goes.
She said, "I'm just gonna listen to your bullshit."
Hey, did you guys like the movie?
Yeah,
I liked it less the second time.
Oh really? This is the third time I've seen it.
I feel. Yeah, I've seen it 3 times.
Well, because the first time, so we actually little factoid, another little
Theater's
factoid.
the best place to see it.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
Interrupts, Jake.
I'm sorry. I stole your
little factoid. Theater's place to see it.
So, this is the first movie that we saw together post-COVID.
Or at all.
In the theaters, yeah. I was going to say, I had
in the theater, yeah. All of us.
I don't think any of us have been to the theaters since COVID hit. I hadn't been since Spider-Man Far From Home came out, so you can imagine my utter disappointment.
That was the last movie.
Oh, you know what? I guess you guys are right.
No, yeah, actually, that's like summer of 2019.
So that was our first movie that we saw together, and now we've seen a couple more after that, and we're going to see. At the time of this recording, we're going to see Black Widow after.
Yeah.
Which maybe we'll do an episode on that.
Maybe.
It
Look out
depends.
for that, guys.
Yeah.
That'd be your first MCU movie.
Well, yeah, because I didn't want to cover those because so many people have. But now that a new one's coming out, I feel like it's a good opportunity. But anyways.
Yeah. Also, I lied just a second ago. The last movie I saw before COVID was not Far From Home. It was Invisible Man.
You saw that in theaters?
Yeah.
Oh, that came out in like January.
Really good movie. Oh yeah, it was right before COVID.
Yeah.
The last one
That's a good one. I saw that.
Saw it with Claire.
Was Harley Quinn. The glorious emancipation and
I'm still at the halfway mark on the HBO account. I have not, and I started it like 2 months ago. I for some reason I can't get into that movie. I don't know why. It's weird because
I like
it's
it.
weird because I like Margot. Well, yeah, Chris likes it because of Margot Robbie.
Hey,
no,
and I like it because of Mary Elizabeth Winstead, baby.
Right. I don't know what it was about it, but it's like the first hour I was like nothing's happening. And it was, I don't know, it's just, she's a very passive character, so I'm kind of iffy on if I'm ever going to finish that or not. That's Jake's suit, his monkey suit.
My birthday,
his birthday suit.
How does it feel like when
what
you
were we squeezing on your birthday
down?
suit?
Huh?
It makes the same noise.
Yeah. His
How does that feel like? Because like when he squeezes his hands, the tail goes up. So how does that feel when you're sitting down?
Well, I've been seeing him raise up a little bit. So
that's interesting.
All right, recap.
Godzilla vs. Kong. That's the movie today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just in case I didn't say that.
You did.
So, all right. Godzilla vs. Kong starts out with...
Okay.
Godzilla vs. Kong starts out with Kong on Skull Island. It's a very Shrek-esque intro. He wakes up and goes about his day. And, you know, it's a normal day on Skull Island. And he has his little friend who's like a little girl of that tribe from Skull Island who can't really speak, but she talks to him in sign language, and it's a normal day in Skull Island. Psych! No, it's not. He throws a tree at the sky. Turns out sky is fake. Turns out he's in a dome that, what is it? Is it Monarch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, hold up. I haven't seen any of the movies before this except for Skull Island, and I have very vague,
none of the American Godzilla
vague recollection of it.
There's only like one.
There's
2014.
There's two.
There's the
King of the
Godzilla,
Monsters.
King of the Monsters.
Okay, so
Kong
who is Monarch?
They're
exactly.
They like study the kaiju creatures. That's basically it.
So Monarch's good people, Apex bad people.
It depends on the story, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so Monarch has a dome, and they're watching over Kong, kind of keeping him safe, but kind of just watching him, and
oh my god!
I always do this. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, Kong's just chilling there, and then it cuts to Bernie Hayes, the dude, the main dude from Atlanta, not Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino isn't the main guy of Atlanta. Donald Glover is.
Well,
Chris.
yeah. There's Donald Glover, and then there's that guy. So it's that guy. Anyway, the dude from Atlanta. His name is Bernie Hayes. He works as an engineer for Apex, and he's like at this outpost in Apex on the Pensacola, and he's like looking for certain documents because he's a conspiracy paranoid guy. He has a podcast about how, you know, Apex is bad and the monsters are cool but also maybe bad, and Godzilla attacks that facility, and so he escapes from that. And then it cuts to Millie Bob Thornton, or sorry, Millie Bobby Brown, who plays Madison Russell, who is like the daughter of the CEO of Monarch.
She was in King of the Monsters.
Yeah, she listens.
She was also in Stranger Things.
To Bernie's podcast, and
Sanders.
And she's like, "Hey,
that's good.
Hey, I think that Godzilla attacked that place for a reason. Let me get my friend Josh and let's go and buy bleach because Bernie says on his podcast that you need bleach for whatever fucking reason."
Hello, McFly.
McFly.
So anyway, so Millie Bobby Brown and Josh investigates Godzilla's attacks and whatever, and so anyway, then it cuts to the CEO of Apex talking to a dude who worked for Monarch. His name is Nathan, and he says, "Hey, you did a lot of research on Hollow Earth, which is where the Titans, aka Godzilla and Kong, are from. I would like to use your help in my research to go to Hollow Earth." And he's like, "No, there's no way you could go to Hollow Earth. The gravity going there will kill you." And it's like, "Oh, well, we have a spacecraft called Heaves that can take you there." And he's like, "Oh, that'd be cool." So he decides to help, and so he goes to meet the outpost that has Kong and everything. And he's like, "Hey, we need to take Kong to this outpost in Antarctica that has a little tunnel to Hollow Earth, so that we could do research for this dude and take Kong there." And she's like,
Get energy.
and she's like, no, we can't do that. And so he says, "Hey, we should do that." And he's like, "Okay." And so and so they load Kongzilla up on
Kongzilla.
they load King Kong up on a boat.
Kong.
Up on an aircraft carrier, and they're like sailing to the Antarctica, and Kong's just big chilling because they sedated him, and
Keep going. We're making an audio book.
everything's kind of normal, and then psych, all of a sudden Godzilla comes roaming in, and this is his playing field because he can swim and breathe underwater because he's a lizard. And he destroys like 3 aircraft characters, and they're like, "Oh no, this is bad. should we release
Aircraft
Kong?"
characters.
Those are my favorite characters.
Aircraft carriers, and they're like, "Oh no, this is bad.
No, the aircraft character.
Should we
They identify as aircrafts.
Hey, how
should
much
we
do you
release
think you would
Kong?
cost in a Lego
No,
game?
we shouldn't." And then Godzilla attacks the ship,
It's
and the
still the size
ship
of a
turns
minifigure.
over, and they're drowning, and they're like, "We should release Kong." And so they release Kong.
Is that how the aircraft characters sound?
That was them underwater.
You were molded by it.
That is why it's blinding.
I don't get that. Go ahead.
Anyway,
That's what he does.
So they release Kong. Kong clicks over the boat. And here we are, round 1 in Kong versus Godzilla. It's an awesome fight. But Godzilla kind of kicks Kong's ass, but it's because, he's not in an even playing field right now. Because, big monkey can't breathe underwater.
Yeah.
And so he beats him up and all that shit. And he gets on the main aircraft characters, where all the main aircraft carrier, where all the main characters are on, because they can't die. And so he's like all exhausted, and they're like, "Kill the ship." They play dead. Godzilla walks off. He swims off. And
his legs are just fucking forever.
And so we cut back to Millie Bobby Thornton and her Josh friend, and they knock on the door of Bernie Sanders, and no, his name is Bernie Hayes, and they're like, "Hey, can you help us?" And he's like, "No." And he was like, "Hey, can you help us?" And he was like, "Okay." And so
you're Millie Bobby Thornton.
They decide to go break into Apex, and so that's that part of the story. They're breaking into Apex because they feel like that they're trying to do something real bad, which is what Godzilla responded to in his little outburst at the beginning of the movie. So anyway, we're back to the Kong side of the story, and they're in Antarctica, and he's like, "Oh, it's cold, and I don't want to go in that tunnel." And
he goes,
"No,
no,
wrong movie." But so they're
together,
like, "Hey, how do we force him to go into this tunnel?" And they tell the little tribe girl who's formed a bond with him, who has taught him how to speak in sign language, she talks to him through sign language and lies to him that there's family down there. He's like, oh, family, and so he goes into the tunnel, and then the Apex people find their little heave aircraft, and they go into the tunnel with them, and there they are. They're in Hollow Earth, and it's really beautiful. It's kind of crazy because there's like two different planes.
Looks like doo-doo.
It's like
See that?
it's like the sky has like a little like Earth area, and then the lower Earth has an Earth area. It's weird. It's inverted gravity. Anyway,
Yeah.
This is where they got the idea for Journey to the Center of the Earth.
this is where they got
That's
the
fine.
idea to Journey to the Center of the Earth translated.
This is
So,
where Jules
wait.
Verne got the idea for Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah. When did that
Anyway,
book
so
come
they
out?
get there, and
The
immediately
1800s.
it's like, oh, it's
Oh, so
so
that was
pretty.
after
Oh no,
Kong.
there are
Yeah.
huge monsters trying to kill us.
Monsters.
Oh no, it's
The
okay
monsters.
because Kong's helping us because he's the good guy. We're the good guys. And so he he kills these two like flying cobra
It's like
creatures,
cauliflower.
and it's awesome. And he drinks the juice out of one of their skulls, and so he goes over to his little kingdom that he and his people had, and he like finds his throne. He finds like an axe of his people, which is really cool because it's like the hilt of it is a bone, and the blade itself is the skull, not the skull, a scale from Godzilla's race, which is very important, because it contains like that radioactive energy that Godzilla uses, and there's this little like rune ring around his throne, and there's like a little piece to set his axe in. He sets it in there, and then it all glows and radiates and forms like it charges and forms a symbol of Godzilla like eating his own tail. That's really powerful imagery because it's like the
This is the
dragon
recap,
eating
Chris.
the dragon eating its own tail. We'll get into that later. I know
You mean the
got something
Ouroboros?
for that. And so anyway, Godzilla at this
Yes.
point is in Hong Kong because that's where the other people are in relation to like underground tunnel and stuff. And Godzilla feels the disturbance in the force. He feels this energy, and so he like shoots a laser beam down into where they're at, and which like creates a little hole. And during this time, Millie Bobby Brown and Bernie and all of them have broken into Apex, and they got caught, and they find out that they're using the head of Ghidorah to charge up Mecha Godzilla and have one of the dudes control Mecha Godzilla to defeat Godzilla, so the Apex can like be the main like top dog like Titan and have power and stuff. And where am I at? Oh yeah, and so
he's like the who's the guy in Fast
so
Nine?
anyway,
It's not
we're back to Kong.
He gets smashed,
The
he's just
laser beam that Godzilla shoots
Yeah.
down
You
into
were
the
talking
earth.
about?
He's just like,
The laser beam that shoots down to the earth meets up with them, and it shoots a hole into the ceiling of the castle. And it turns out that the CEO of Apex's daughter is with them. And she double crosses them and takes a sample of that energy and then sends that energy over to Apex so that they can replicate it for the Mecha Godzilla thing. So Mecha Godzilla is booting up while all this is happening, and then Kong goes into the hole and then comes out into Hong Kong and is like, hey, round two, me and Godzilla is gonna fight. And Kong beats his ass. He like takes out the axe and he like absorbs the power of the beam and knocks him out and da-da-da. It's fucking awesome. And then Mechagodzilla awakens because they power him up, but he's like way too powerful, and it's like ancient technology that they don't know how to use. Yeah, and it kills the pilot, and then it has its own
He goes
like
like-
consciousness, and Mechagodzilla kills the CEO of Apex, and then breaks out of the facility, and then meanwhile Godzilla, fights back Kong and topples him to the ground, and then stabs him with his big toe in the heart. And so Kong is pretty much out. Like Kong, as far as the fight between him and Godzilla, Kong loses, and so he's dying. And so Kong walks off, and Godzilla walks off, and then Mechagodzilla shows up, and he's like, "Hey, bitch!" And Godzilla's like, "Oh, I'm the king of and then Mechagodzilla just beats the ever loving crap out of him. And so the main characters, who was like the research team, goes up to Kong, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to like use these ships as sort of a defibrillator to bring him back to life." And so they bring the ship over and then explode the ship on Kong, and then it brings him back to life. And then he sees that his old buddy Godzilla is getting beat up by Mechagodzilla, and he's like, "Hold up, I'm gonna help you out, pal." And so he like goes over and takes his axe, and then he tags team with Godzilla to beat up Mechagodzilla. Godzilla gets knocked the fuck out, but then Kong takes over, and he takes his axe and he rips off all of his limbs, and then takes his head off and drinks his machine blood, and then he wins that battle. And then Godzilla and Kong both look at each other, and it looks like they're going to fight again, but then they kind of stare each other down, and it's like, all right, respect. So they kind of call a truce, and then Godzilla goes back into the ocean, and then it cuts to Kong back in Hollow Earth with all of the research people, and I guess Millie Bobby Brown and Bernie and all of them are, living life. But the research people are conducting a peaceful base up in Hollow Earth, and Kong beats his chest, and he's back at home, and he's happy, and the movie ends. Is made out of meat. The movie ends all happy. The end.
Yay! Woo! We did it. Ooga booga.
I knew that was going to be like kind of a smaller recap, because not much happens except for monsters.
Yeah. The monsters.
All right, Kyle. So Kyle said he had a lot to say about this. Let me go ahead and say, man is enemy.
Yes.
Now that might be the biggest. That might not be the biggest theme, but that's the most obvious one.
Man is enemy. Yeah.
Well, hold on. No one asked me what I thought this movie was about.
What do you think the movie's about?
Big monkey.
Okay, so I'll be honest.
Wait, Chris. What are you serious?
Yeah.
Stop it. What are you doing?
So,
what does big monkey mean?
Big monkey.
The more you pronounce it, the more profound it is.
Big monkey.
So the reason I have a lot to say about this is because I watched the first Godzilla movie and the first King Kong movie.
The 2014 or the original ones?
No, the ones from the 30s.
The Peter Jackson one.
No, that was 2005. Although I did watch that.
Shit, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I meant the original one.
Yes. God fucking damn it.
What did I tell you? My brain gets all dubbed up with my...
I watched the original Godzilla movie that came out in 1954, and then...
in a response to...
yes, I'm getting into that. It was a direct response. It was 9 years after Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed by atomic bombs. 9 years after, and it's essentially a mythological retelling of that event in some aspects. But specifically, what was so interesting to me is that it's a movie that has like a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's black and white. It's subtitled over. The sound design really wasn't that great altogether, because it was hard for me to like kind of tell who was talking at any given point. And yet all of this, and it's a guy in like a big rubber suit walking around a tiny set, all this, and I still actually really felt something while watching this movie, which is crazy to me, because when you watch old movies, they're not usually, at least in my opinion, they're not good at carrying emotion, like true emotion.
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, and because they're more about telling like plot-centered stories.
Well, and developments in cinematography at the time.
Yeah, right. And just the idea of like showing certain kind of emotion didn't, there's a cultural difference obviously from older movies to what we have watched now. But I actually did feel something specifically after Godzilla attacked first and then he left, and you see the aftermath of this, and this is a clear allusion to the aftermath of the atomic bombings.
So
And it was genuinely like heartbreaking to watch, like because you saw like mothers like crying, like holding like their dead children and stuff like that, which is like it was pretty intense, for me at least. And apparently, people who watched it in Japan had to leave the theaters because it affected them so much.
What I want to point out that I think that the 1954 is the American release, because the original release was Gojira, which that might have been 53. I don't know. It was before Godzilla.
Yeah,
but
and the American release re-edited it as well.
Right.
Yeah,
and basically the difference is the Japan release, Godzilla was a monster created by the nuclear bombings, and in the U.S. release, Godzilla had always existed, but was awakened by the bombings,
right.
which is a huge distinction.
Yeah,
massive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because essentially Godzilla represents the American army.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Which is, really interesting considering that even in the Japanese movies, as time went on, Godzilla became a protector of Japan. And that happens to coincide with the Japanese and American like alliance, like when that started to form post World War II. And that's when you get other monsters that came around that represented other nations like Russia, China, Korea, maybe Vietnam, but like all of those monsters represent. I think Mechagodzilla. I can't remember which one was Russia. It might have been. I can't remember which one, but what Ghidorah. I think that's what Russia was supposed to be, or maybe it was China. I don't know, but the three heads represented three countries, essentially, that were starting to pose threats to Japan, and Japan released the Godzilla movie as like an interpretation of that fear, right? But Godzilla protects the people, right? And again, if we're going with the Godzilla representing the American military motif, that was clear from the beginning, and I don't actually think changed over those movies. That's a really interesting shift. And then I was reading some articles because the original Kong movie was kind of like, I didn't really enjoy it that much.
Stop motion, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, at least Kong was, but I didn't enjoy it too much. I mean, it was just hard for me to get into, right? Because it was such an old movie, like because it was made in like the 30s or something.
Oh yeah.
But I did watch the Peter Jackson version right after that, just so I could kind of see the story in a more modern viewing for myself. But I was reading some articles in between that, and a lot of them were talking about how Kong represents like colonialism and racism and stuff like that. And if you take and I thought about that for a second because I have my own opinions on this, but if you think that Kong is a stand-in for a colonialist and how they viewed Eastern cultures, then Kong is killed by a machine gun on a plane, which insists that man is greater than that beast, right? Because specifically Western man, I would say. And so that's at least one way of viewing that narrative, right? And then there's the racist aspect of like the foreigners are going to take our women, that kind of thing, that kind of thing. I can definitely see that reading, because you look into the history of the guy who actually wrote it.
Are you talking about the original King Kong?
Yeah, in the original King Kong. And you look at the history of the guy who wrote it, and like, yeah, he was probably racist, right? Like, you read his writings, and it's like, yeah, he's pretty much racist.
Well, I assume it was a white guy.
Oh yeah,
and it's the 30s,
right?
So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was so commonplace at that point that I mean, it's not an excuse.
What was his name?
I don't remember his name.
Probably like John Smith or something.
Yeah, he was the guy that from Pocahontas.
I kind of like tuned out because I
saw you pull.
I started watching bits and pieces of the original Godzilla.
Yeah.
But so wait, was King Kong like originally a book, or?
I think so.
Okay.
I honestly can't remember, But I started thinking about it after I watched the Peter Jackson interpretation specifically, which I think is the one that most people in our generation would remember the name King Kong from. I mean, now you got Skull Island, obviously, but Skull Island I think works because you know the story of King Kong, right?
I've never seen the Peter Jackson one, which is
But
obvious.
you know the story of it.
Yeah.
Right, and
well,
you know that he
Sean
gets-
had to inform me on it while we were watching it because I don't
Oh,
really
really?
know much about it.
Oh, wow. So
he tells me about how he's killed at the end.
You didn't know that?
No.
Damn, that's
No.
kind of
Spoilers.
impressive. That's kind of impressive because I thought that everybody knew that, but I guess that was my my bad for assuming that. But anyways, I started thinking about what King Kong could mean, and this is important getting down to what these characters represent because they're very clearly stand-ins for some sort of meaning, right?
Yeah.
They're larger than life figures for a reason, just like the figures of old, just like the stories of the past. That's why it always deals with demigods in Greek mythology and people chosen by God in in Jewish mythology. Which mythology I know people mythology, but yeah, that's what it is.
This is monster mythology,
right, exactly. So there has to be
Big
because they're a
monkey-thology.
larger stand-in for ideas and concepts. They have to mean something, and I thought about it as King Kong could be an allegory for woman's ability to tame man's animal nature.
Because little girl goes. For those of you who can't see,
Yeah, he just did home in sign language, which is irrelevant on a podcast. But yeah, I think that's honestly what it's about because King Kong is very clearly much like apex of his natural society, right? He is, if you're assuming that this is some sort of allegory for what a person is or some sort of metaphor for what a person could be.
and potentially the apex of the apex, like the very
Right,
top.
right.
Because he does have this throne, in the Hollow Earth, which is supposedly where all these creatures come from.
Right, exactly.
So the very, very top.
Yeah, he's the top of that, right? He is the potential that one could be if one fully embraced nature, right? If their natural leanings, right? Men, generally speaking, tend to be more aggressive by nature, right? And it's part of the reason for marriage is in one aspect, at least traditionally, is that somewhat taming of that aggressive man into something that can be introduced into civilized society. But that's also what parents do too. But anyways, so I think it's interesting when the famous line from King Kong is it was beauty that killed the beast, and so Kong is the embodiment of the beast within, and the biplane was the incarnation of technological progress. Fully, that planes were just now being invented. They have machine guns on that plane, and it was this technological power that destroyed the animal nature of man. And I think it's an optimistic story trying to convey that through technology, man can overcome his worst elements. And I think that's what the story of King Kong is about. And specifically, that's through, technology can destroy it, but it's also through a taming by women, right? It's that ability to bring out the more civilized aspect of a man. And again, whatever, I might get canceled for just even mentioning that, but I think that's what it's trying to say at the very least. So I think it's funny if you take that idea about King Kong representing racism and Godzilla representing the American military. And when they fight in this movie, the American military beats racism.
Hey, there you go. That's good, right?
Which I just think is kind of funny. But then they team up to defeat technology.
The movie's actually going back to the Dark Ages, is what it's
right.
Go back to medieval times, when,
right? So that's why I don't think the racism angle works specifically in this movie. And I'm not saying that that's an illogical reading of it. I don't think it works.
All right,
for
so that little rant was basically Kyle saying what the movie wasn't about.
Excuse me?
Right?
Well, yeah, I was getting into what they
go.
mean separately, and so I feel like I've been talking a second, so I'll give you guys some time, and then when we get in, I'll jump in. Because I just went on like a 10-minute like.
Yeah, well, no,
Chris.
Like you made some good points. No, I agree that they stand for something. As to what exactly, we'll get into that. But I do think it's interesting that, originally Gojira was the symbol of destruction, who then turned into a symbol of nature,
It's protection.
essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
protection of the natural world, not of Japan, not of
Well,
any
I
specific
think the
place.
American version turned that into a
I'm talking
more
about
globalist.
this movie.
Okay.
Talking about this movie.
I got you.
We're not talking about other movies. We're talking about this movie.
Yeah, but
The
I thought it
Monsterverse.
was important to go over that. But sure.
No,
yeah,
I think it is.
We can talk about
But
just this one. That's fine.
This movie, or rather the Monsterverse, Godzilla, is a protector of nature. And I think that's super safe to say.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when Kong is introduced and Godzilla fights him, even though supposedly King Kong he's the king of the monsters, given the throne room, and then the corporation tries to build something that's better than nature, essentially,
Yeah.
and still loses.
Yeah. Right. No, yeah, because it is kind of the ultimate, nature reigns supreme kind of movie,
Right.
because man comes up with genuinely like this technological feat that's completely like out of nowhere. Like it's literally Godzilla, and it's able to almost destroy Godzilla, right? Which is kind of impressive. But then obviously,
It's kind of impressive. It's not.
it's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no planting an American flag on the moon, but
Right.
it's okay, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's awesome. Like we get so close to beating nature, but then and that's why I'm trying to figure out what Kong represents specifically, because we were on the verge of defeating nature and then nature overtakes us.
So
and that's why, because Kong to me is the difficult one to define.
Yeah, he may.
Because I think there's a clear difference between this Kong and the Kong of the past.
I don't want to say balance, but it kind of is kind of that, because Godzilla acts almost instinctually.
Mm-hmm.
There is this predator or this entity that poses a threat to the natural cycle of things, and so he just attacks without thought, without anything. He just attacks. But Kong is able to essentially communicate with
people,
man, and realize that man exists, or however you want to put that, keeps them in check while also keeping nature in check. Essentially, if we're going to go with the lines of King Kong is the protector, or Godzilla is a protector of nature.
Yeah, so I would say that Kong or Godzilla does attack with discretion, because I think you're right about the balance aspect. I think Kong is, or God damn it, that Godzilla is constantly on the prowl for what is bringing out chaos, and part of King of the Monsters was that every time that the kaiju creatures come through is that they bring with them like a bunch of growth and stuff. And so, people are like, we need, help the earth because whatever. So we should just let all the kaiju out and then they'll help the earth. Because they do in this universe. I don't know if it was like this in the Japanese ones, but in this universe, when they come through, plant life is restored anew and, stuff like that. And so I think Godzilla is constantly looking to make sure that there is a balance in the natural world. And the other kaiju are specifically just chaos monsters, and he's got to destroy,
which
make sure that they don't upset that balance.
Right, we see in 2014 Godzilla with the Mutos.
Yeah.
Where they're just destroying, and that's why Godzilla appears.
Right.
Whereas at the end of that one, or at the end of King of All Monsters, or whatever it is.
King of the Monsters.
King of the Monsters. The other Titans, kaiju, appear. Mm-hmm. They all kind of bow down to him, so he doesn't attack them.
Yeah. Right, because it's about that natural order.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They don't pose a threat.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, to me, Kong has to represent something approximating humanity for or specifically the best of humanity.
Yeah.
Which is funny saying that because, obviously he kills a bunch of people in there, but it's not unprovoked,
Right.
too, which, you can say whatever you want to say about that. But that's why I think the original Kong movie was about how it's interesting, technology does kill him, but it's also his interaction with what makes him more civilized that ultimately
Woman.
yeah, that ultimately defeats that natural force, right? So in this movie, he's able to take down technology, and it's through the interaction with a woman that is able to bring him some sort of close connection
Back to life, dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That too. Yeah, because she cares enough about him that she gets that one guy to go and restart his heart.
With technology.
Yeah. Right, but it's mainly I think the just the girl it's herself, like because she was able to form an emotional connection with Kong, his life was saved, and therefore he saved the natural order.
And I think it kind of hints at the same kind of thing that Arrival talks about a little bit, where it's like in almost all alien movies, we see just kill the aliens. Or here it's like, okay, we have to take out Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take out King Kong. Let's take him out before we even are trying to see what's up.
Right. Yeah. And granted, if this was real life, I would 100% be on board with we should kill Godzilla. I would want all the kaiju. I'd be like, kill them. Because Jesus Christ, they have one bad day and an entire city's dead. But in the context of this movie, granted, maybe not every single person knows the benefits of having them around and understands this mythological meaning like an audience may. But in the context of the movie, if you kill Godzilla, the whole world would end. Because all the kaiju that he was keeping in check would disperse and kill everyone. The natural order would be completely upset. And it's almost the classic man's arrogance is what undoes him, kind of story.
Yeah.
It's the arrogance to think that you can go toe to toe with nature and live. Because you don't, because you die.
Well, no, and I think that's even more expressed with the Ghidorah, one of Ghidorah's skulls, trying to use it to power Mechagodzilla. Because it is interesting that they tried to defeat nature by using nature, and nature turns against them.
Yeah, because
man cannot control nature.
Well, that's interesting too, because there are two sides of nature. So in mythological stories, there are six characters. There is the benevolent Mother Nature. There's the angry side. I can't remember the actual names that they were given, as an archetype. But there's the benevolent mother side of nature that nurtures. There's the destructive force of nature. There is the wise king. There is the desperate tyrant. And then there's the evil individual, and then the noble individual. Those are the six of them. And technically there's a seventh one, the dragon of chaos, which everything else comes from.
Right.
Yeah, which everything else comes from. And you can kind of think of it like you're on an island, and space is the dragon of chaos. The water around you is the bad side of nature, because you can drown in storms and shit. And then you got on the island itself is the good side of nature, because that's where you're outside of the water.
Right. Order,
that's where you're safe.
Order and chaos, one might say.
Right. Okay, don't do it. Then there's the city on the island, and that city could either be ruled by a good tyrant or a bad tyrant, and it's up to you as the individual to traverse these elements to see how about you can bring the best of all possibilities, right? That's what mythological stories are about.
I pity the humans. They view chaos and order as somehow opposites.
See, here's the thing too. That is not profound. So the more that you keep saying that, the more I keep thinking about it, and it's not profound, because order and chaos are separable in large quantities.
And now hold on, what are you, Kyle?
I'm Batman.
A human.
Yeah. Well,
You will never understand.
yeah. I
Also,
can't
you
ever
have poor vision.
Thank you. He's because I have glasses. That's funny.
I'm just being adorable on this episode.
But yeah, no, order and chaos are clearly different. I mean, evolutionarily, we've
Again,
always seen it.
What
as,
are you?
As
A human.
as different.
So you will never understand.
Yeah, but the thing is that even if you think that they are the same, you can't act as though they are.
Again, here's the problem. You are human.
Okay, but does that help?
Help what?
Does that help you act in any way? Because
Huh?
if you say, "Oh, order and chaos are the same," I'm a human, so I may see it as different, but they are
No,
the same.
hey,
That doesn't matter because
hey,
you can never act as
hey.
though they are.
Hey, I don't know. I'm just telling you what Vision said.
I know, and every time you say it, I think about it more and more, and I think that's kind of ludicrous.
And what I'm saying is,
Ludicrous. F9.
you're human.
Was he in F9?
Yes.
F9.
You're human, so you wouldn't understand. No matter
Okay.
how much you think about it.
Who else would?
Vision.
God. Like,
Fair.
from God's perspective, and
Hey,
maybe Godzilla thinks that way.
he's not a human.
Yeah, he's not. He probably knows. Yeah.
He doesn't differentiate the two.
I
He
would
only
I would
sees
argue
protection.
that God would differentiate it more than humans because God is the arbiter between sin and what is holy. And
Yeah,
you could
but
argue that one
Order
is
and
order
chaos
and one
is not
chaos.
sin.
It could be.
Could be.
But what I'm saying is that God is clearly an arbitrator of
What
in some
I'm saying
aspect.
is, Kyle,
Mhm.
is you're human.
Yeah.
Don't
No,
think
I
about
understand
it.
your argument. I'm just saying that it wouldn't matter if it was true or not.
Well, and you know what? Believe that all you will. You can never truly know because you're human.
I feel like you're just parroting the same line again without understanding my argument.
No, I understand what you're saying, but
What am
my
I
point
saying?
is, huh?
What am I saying?
They're different.
Yes, but explain why. Why? Explain why I said that.
I wasn't
they're
listening
different.
that much.
Okay, well then that's what I'm. Okay,
Because
I win.
one is a force of force of force. They're different things.
that's not exactly what I was saying. The point I was making is that
Right.
assume that you're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
I know.
because there is no way that humans can not separate order and chaos.
Maybe.
even if they combine,
Yeah.
they surely do
Right.
in some aspects,
Uh-huh.
but they are separate entities. And even if on an objective
Right. That's
level,
what I said. They're different.
even if on no, you didn't.
I said you asked. You were like, "What was the point I made?" I went, "They're different."
Yes, but I'm. God damn it!
No.
I feel like I'm explaining myself well, and I'm like he keeps
Kyle,
saying the same
here's the
thing,
thing,
and I'm like,
though.
hold on.
Here's the thing, though. I'm not listening to you because you're human.
Chris, what do you have to say about
That's what Rag and Bone
Godzilla
Man said. He
versus-
said, "I'm only human."
My
After all.
hair is super soft and silky
From
because
that watermelon.
because I've been wearing that watermelon on my head.
Dude.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Watermelon.
So okay, about the symbolism of the
I was just seeing if you
of
peed
the
'cause
Godzilla dragon eating his tail.
Okay.
I
The
feel like
reverse?
Kyle has something
Yeah.
to say about that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
King Kong is forever. I mean, Godzilla is forever.
Well, yeah.
Hey, what is a king to a god?
Why be a king when you can be a god?
Why be a king when you can be a Kong?
I'm the captain now.
I am the Kong now.
I did do a little bit of research though, as you guys were talking.
On the
'cause
Ouroboros?
you talked about the original King Kong. It was interesting. He based it off of a book that was
Called Kong King.
no, it was written by the dude who oh man, I'm gonna have to do some backtracking on what I was researching. But okay, so this guy, Paul du Chaillu, he was a French American traveler and zoologist who became famous for but how exactly is it put? He was like one of the first European outsiders to confirm the existence of gorillas. And so he based the original King Kong and the character of King Kong off of the book that he wrote about his
Oh,
findings.
you mean Tarzan?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a way. It's similar.
Nah, he's the guy in
Yeah.
Tarzan, the old guy.
Yeah.
And
Jane's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the dude was just fascinated with gorillas fighting
Yo.
lizards.
Dude, that's kind of crazy. Imagine pulling up to a jungle and seeing a big, hairy man.
Like a
And
silverback
be like,
gorilla.
whoa.
Dude,
and then try to talk
I'd
to
probably
it.
shit myself. Yeah.
and then you try to talk to it, and then it rips your fucking head off.
Yeah.
How crazy would that be?
Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
And then you write a book about the gorilla ripping your head off.
No, imagine going there and then the monkey sees you and starts chasing you.
Just going.
Yeah, I know. I'd be like, oh, fuck! I'd be like, oh my god!
What?
No!
And he goes, I don't even know who you are.
And then the monkey goes, oh, you will. Oh. Wait, why did that turn into Mickey? You will. Who's my pal? Not you.
I am inevitable.
Oi!
And I am Peter
Reality
Jackson.
can be whatever I want.
And I am Iron Man. Huh?
And I am Peter Jackson. All right, because he tries to take Lord of the Rings, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's funny. The Ouroboros. Whoa, what did I say?
I mean,
Was that right?
it's as close as
I've only ever seen it written the Ouroboros.
I would say Ouroboros.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know exactly what its relation is to the movie, but obviously, like in Egyptian mythology, which is where it originated from. Chris is stabbing his melon hat.
Chris.
What?
I was gonna eat that.
I'm making a smiley face.
Okay.
No, you're ruining my helmet.
It was gonna protect them from the Koopa shells.
Okay, well,
So-
are you about to explain what it means traditionally?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in Egyptian mythology, which is where it originated from, it's the serpent eating its own tail, and it's supposed to represent some form of infinity or the
Wholeness.
Yeah, wholeness or
Completion.
yes, or the repetition of time. That kind of idea where things just loop. Everything's a cycle, right? There's also other interpretations of it where it represents fertility, because the snake's tail is phallic shaped and the snake's mouth is vagina shaped.
I was about to say that as a joke.
Yeah, I can't remember. There's what is the word? There's phallic, and then what's the female equivalent of that word?
Of what word?
Phallic.
Valak.
Phallic shaped. And so that's why it represents fertility. But yeah, generally speaking, it just means like the fullness of the world, a repetitive cycle, that kind of thing. And Norse mythology specifically, it represents the passage of time being a repeating action. Because North mythology viewed the world as cyclical. When it ends, it restarts again. That kind of shtick.
I thought
Yeah,
you were about to hit the
Ragnarok and
pin.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. You want to see this pencil disappear.
So I'm not entirely sure what that has to do with this movie, and maybe Jake can help on that, because I didn't really give it too much thought when I saw it. I just took it as meaning face value, like things have come full circle, like Kong's back on the throne, that kind of thing.
It might have to do with like nature will prevail kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting why it's a snake as well, because a snake is like the most common predator of our biological ancestors.
Well, and often used to
Yeah.
depict like evil.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, and that's because it was just a common enemy. That's what a dragon is, just a combination of a snake, a flying creature that would generally steal your children, and a mountain, or not a mountain lion, but like a big cat
Yeah.
that would also attack you. It's the combination of the three of those animals together into one super animal, which is what a dragon is. That's why people try to say that dragons are like an alien or something, and that's why they're all over the world, because that must mean that aliens visit. It's like, no, it's just a common archetype. It's literally the combination of things that which used to kill you, and like I said, it's just an archetypal.
Cats can still kill you.
Well, no, obviously, like all of those animals could still kill you at any point. But again, on an evolutionary level, we adapted to fight off against that, right? The lower half of your vision is more acute at picking up patterns and movement than the upper half of your vision are. That's because snakes were on the ground, because you had to be aware of things that slithered on the ground, specifically things with shapes that slithered on the ground. And so your vision is just better on the ground and being able to notice movement and again patterns. And you used to live in trees for reasons of big cats, and then just being able to watch over your children because of big birds and all that crazy stuff. The ability to communicate probably arose from the need to give information about these predators, right? Which is really fascinating.
All right, here's something for you.
All right.
So the snake, specifically the uraeus, or the hooded cobra, was the symbol for the Egyptian goddess Wadjet, which was a deity that protected Egypt against chaos.
What was the name of it?
Wadjet. Or the snake.
Wait, is that
Wadjet is the
snake is the chaos, right? The serpent that's going to eat everything?
No. So
because there's a serpent in Egyptian mythology that's supposed to eat the sun when the world ends. And I think it starts with an A, if I'm not mistaken. Gosh, what is that? I keep thinking Tiamat because I'm thinking of the Mesopotamian creation.
It's a Yu-Gi-Oh character.
Apophis.
Yeah, Apophis. Thank you.
No, it's a different one.
Okay. And you said that snake creature protects against chaos?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I'd have to look at that more because I don't know anything about that.
Well, so maybe it has to do with order and chaos, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Because it represents both.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, the Egyptians...
The order eats the chaos.
Yeah.
But sacrifices itself to defeat the chaos. What
does that leave that with?
Balance.
No, it leaves it with chaos. The lack of order is chaos.
Balance.
That's not balance. But
as all things should be.
Egyptian mythology is actually really weird. And
I read the Rick Riordan books, so.
Oh, really?
I know all about that.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, I mean it is though, and it's a lot different than other Western mythologies and stuff like that. Because, for instance, in Egyptian, black is the representation, the representative color of good, whereas red is the representation color of evil. Which red can be, it's not necessarily evil. It's usually something like blood or
passion.
Anger or passion, something like that. Whereas black generally, because of its association with nighttime, represented a bad place. That's where bad things can happen.
Vampires, werewolves.
In Egyptian mythology, black was good because when the sun went down, you could actually live outside, because it was so fucking hot. And I'm sure that there are other reasons because of that as well. But yeah, they have a weird mythological system compared to the one that we are all just, it seems, innately attuned to just because of our culture.
Which is weird because they are closer to supposedly the creation of man. Like that area.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the oldest records that we have of civilization come from Mesopotamia.
For those of you who didn't know.
Yeah, and it comes from oh god, the name's escaping me. Sumerians, the Sumerians.
Oh yeah.
And that's the first civilization we have, and so if I've ever talked about the Enuma Elish,
Tiamat.
Tiamat comes from that. There's also the Epic of Gilgamesh. That comes from the Sumerian creation stories and stuff, and they heavily inspire biblical creation stories as well. In fact, there's actually reference to that in Job when God specifically refers to the behemoth and the Leviathan, which are all from Mesopotamian creation stories. And it's not saying that those things exist. It's just comparing God's in that situation is basically saying, I've conquered the Leviathan. I've conquered Behemoth, which essentially means I've conquered the top predator on land and water, which means I'm supreme.
Which
there you go.
King Kong,
King
and
Kong.
Godzilla
That's
are the top
interesting that we got
predators.
there.
Are the top predators?
I forgot what movie we were talking about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so interesting. And so man tries to
Compete.
lord over the top predators.
Mhm.
Man tries to become God.
Yeah.
But ultimately loses.
Yeah, and what's really, really interesting, right? So in the first Godzilla movie and the first Kong movie, man triumphs over them. Because what we needed as a culture at that time was to say that we could conquer nature, because nature is the thing that kills us more often than not, right? And you could say that our fellow man also kills us just as much, but as far as an existential threat to humanity, you would probably view nature as number one, right? Because, well, that makes sense. Just in space, literally
Right.
everything can kill you in space, but even just here on Earth,
Space itself.
almost everything can kill you here on Earth, right? And so that's why man's biggest enemy for even up until now is nature. And so we needed movies to show us that we could conquer that, or at least showing the best of us conquering that and saying, we can also do this. Come on, we can do that. It's a rallying cry. Whereas nowadays you're seeing more movies where nature destroys man, and it's supposed to be a positive thing. And again, that's a whole nother cultural aside, which is really interesting to see that progression, or if you can call it progression. Depends on how you define progress. I feel like I talked more in this episode. It's because you haven't interrupted me as much, because you're out of it.
Yeah.
I like this. You should be sick more often.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
I was fine earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Where are we at?
An hour or two.
Okay. Chris, final thoughts.
Who has not said anything but has drawn a face on my watermelon.
Yeah.
I liked this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Big monkey.
Big monkey. Yeah, I didn't really talk very much in this episode.
Yeah.
He's been writing his rap.
So be for real. All right.
Yeah.
What is one insight? And it's okay if it's something that we've kind of already covered too. But what's one insight that you have on this movie at any point of it? What's something that really stood out to you as being meaningful?
Well, yeah, the fact that the whole thing of man trying to take nature in their hands, it completely backfired. And even what you're saying, that even if they were to win, it would cause more problems than they could ever dream of.
Yeah.
And also the fact, I don't really see any motive for him to kill Godzilla and own Mecha Godzilla. The fact that it's not really to protect the people from Godzilla, because the whole reason that he attacks the base in the first place is because they were provoking him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just man's greed to
arrogance.
Yeah.
That is something that I meant to mention, but I forgot to. Is that so? I'll keep going and I'll elaborate on that in a second.
Well, it's just man's greed to pillage anything that has not been touched by man. Oh, I don't understand this force of nature. Well, let me fill it with all this technology shit and let me just use it to be powerful just because I can.
Yeah,
dude, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
They secretly provoked Godzilla, and then was Godzilla's evil, we gotta kill him.
Yeah, but that happens all the time in current politics.
No, and I agree 100%.
Well, even the thing as far as Apex connection to Hollow Earth, it's somewhat of it parallels the connection of the European settlers to America.
Well, yeah,
in a way.
Potentially.
Potentially.
I would say
it has the potential, especially how this movie ends.
The colonials and the relationship with the natives.
Yeah.
How it's basically they tricked King Kong into locating Hollow Earth by basically saying like, "Oh, this is going to be your new home."
Yeah, it's
to be
just
fair,
like
people who said it thought that was the goal.
No, well, no, and I agree that they did,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
ultimately Kong was being deceived.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I'm thinking about especially how this movie ends. Like, I mean, the people that are on that base, those main characters, they're good people. But how long will it be until, they try to do the same to Hollow Earth? They just try to
They've
colonize
already
it and
at the end of the movie,
industrialize it. Yeah, and it's eventually just going to destroy it. It's another ecosystem that we have yet to destroy.
Well, and I think that originally, I think there is a good cause to this, right?
Yeah.
But there will always be, because we are man, we are born into sin, and only when we die are we free of it. If you believe that. And even if you don't, I mean, once you're dead,
Can't really hurt anybody.
yeah,
Or at least you can't continue to hurt anybody anew.
your memory will possibly, but you yourself will not continue to hurt people. So, but there's always going to be somebody that wants it for evil.
Yeah. Well, again, that's why it's like I think that people are innately selfish, and I think
Homo homini lupus est.
and I think that's the one thing. Well, maybe not the one thing, but I certainly think that's a core thing that can bring everybody together in agreement. Is that we're selfish at heart.
And if you say we're not, you're stupid.
Well, if you say that if you say that mankind as a totality is not innately selfish on the individual level, then I would argue that you're either lying to yourself or you have not come into contact with any true being. You've not, and what I mean by that is like you have not lived a life, because I don't think you can come into contact with really anybody and come away with it thinking that people are not selfish. And I'm not saying that to be pessimistic. I mean, I think that's just something that everybody has to overcome. That's part of why religion exists in the first place, is because you need to be told how to act, because otherwise you're just going to act in your own self-interest, and it's not going to work out for the better of your group or your family or your community, whatever you want to say. So you're not tying that tie correctly.
And you're stupid, so...
Yep. All right, recap rep.
Wait,
we got a couple
other
last
things
words
to do.
What do we have to do?
Blow-ups?
Oh, yeah, ready or not scale.
Yeah. I'm going to give this a 4.
Yeah, there are a few blow-ups that we actually see the people blow up. Like the one where Kong picks that ship up and looks at it, and the bad chick was there, and he just goes, just crushes it in his hand. Yeah, baby. That was, I'd say 4, maybe even 5, because there are so many explosions.
Yeah,
and there are a lot
again,
of people around.
That's why it would be like
Especially like in Hong Kong.
Yeah, the 3 aircraft characters.
Yeah, the aircraft characters got real exploded.
I cannot in good conscience give it a 5 if I don't see people blow up. How do I do this?
I'll show you later. All right.
I want to know now.
It's not interesting for audio listeners for me to explain it.
All right, for those of you who can't see, I'm trying to tie a tie.
Yeah.
And Kyle won't tell me how to do it.
All right, so first of all, this side needs to go down way more.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so this over.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and then bring that under right there.
Oh, right here.
No. No, go
Here.
around.
Yeah.
Then bring it like that. Then this is going to go up through here and then back through.
This is very interesting for our podcast
Back
listeners.
through here.
Kyle's tying a tie on
And then,
Jake,
obviously,
big chunky boy right there.
I mean, it's a little bit difficult from my position, but yeah, that's what you got going for you. So that works. That works out.
It's a casual Sunday or Friday, you know? Hey.
So it is what it is. But
all right, guys.
recap time.
No,
time.
Jesus Christ.
Rap.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
God.
Our fortress.
the Fortress of Solitude.
All right, guys. If you think, you know what? Tweet us
Chaos and order.
at PacinoPod on Twitter. Let us know if you think man is good or man is evil.
I need something to.
Oh, don't say that.
Hey,
That's you're gonna get a bunch of ideologues on there.
Hey, but you know what? I want to hear it so I can say that you're stupid. Or I can say, you know what? That's a good idea. Or if you want a lengthy discussion or any recommendations, shoot us an email at pachinopod@gmail.com.
.com.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
All right. We the film boys always monkeying around. Okay, bad guy, lizard slam the other to the ground. Alright, pointing out the obvious like Millie Bobby Brown. We the king of monsters and we here to claim our crown. Okay, make it out of cardboard and serve me up some whoppers. I'ma lose my ape shit and throw a helicopter. Musty men so cranky, you think they need to be medicated. Should I drop a stanky? But this time it was premeditated. That was it.
Yeah! That was good, Chris.
Yeah.
That was good.
I wrote that one.
Good job, Chris. All right, lean in. All right, lean in real close to the mic. All right, put your head down a little bit. No, I won't. No.
Just hit it with your head.
All right, no, a little bit closer. Right there. All right, hold on.
All right.
Oh, hold on. That worked. That's a watermelon.
Welcome to our ASMR channel. Slapping melons. All right.
Hey.
Hey.
Nice. All right. Stout and sour. Fuck.
Ah, shit. Sounds sauerkraut.
Every time you
Stout and
forget.
sauerkraut.